Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Entrepreneurs Club, a weekly program dedicated to innovation and entrepreneurship. Every Monday afternoon, your host, Kip Marlowe, will feature interviews and commentary with real-world entrepreneurs and topical guests that help you understand the fundamental principles of entrepreneurship, as well as what it takes to transform an idea into a new venture. Our ultimate mission is to encourage, inspire, and teach entrepreneurship everywhere. And now, here is your host, Kip Marlowe.
Welcome aboard, everybody. This is Kip Marlowe, and this is Entrepreneurs Club Radio. And if you want to learn how to start a business, or you want to learn how to grow one, or even operate one, you've really come to the right place. We have an excellent show for you today. Our special guest is Robin Sachs, CEO of the 1 Minute Mindset and author of Get Off My Bus. And Robin, I love the name of that. That's a fantastic name. She's obviously in the studio today. So
snicker.
She'll talk about handling the stress of operating a business, or even the stress for the rest of us that encounter lots of it during our daily activities. We're also going to talk about simplifying our decision-making processes, among other things. At the bottom of the hour, we'll hear from Sean Neese of Neese, Malik & Seifert, a small business CPA firm, which, by the way, is a CPA firm I use. Sean is going to talk about some simple ways to track your revenues and expenses for your business. Most of us entrepreneurs do not do that very well. You can listen to us, by the way, on the internet at welw.com. And if you want to listen to us on a smartphone, go to welw.com, click on smartphone. I think.
How simple. I love that.
And then you click on what kind of smartphone you have, and voila, you are in immediately. Robin Sachs, the 1 Minute Mindset, is also somebody that I do business with. She is excellent at public speaking. She speaks all over the country. She's written many books. One of the books I talked about today, Get Off My Bus, and she she teaches people how to speak. And boy, if anybody needs it, Robin, I do. So welcome aboard.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for reaching out, Kip.
That's great, Robin. Just for a minute, I want to talk about Get Off My Bus. Can we do that? And you can get it at Amazon.com, can't you?
You can. Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. There's a Nook, a Kindle version. All right, there's my plug for the day. Thank you.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good.
All the usual suspects.
Anyway, yeah. Okay. What's it about?
72 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what's it about? Not about. Oh, gotcha. I gotcha.
Here we go. Okay.
All right. So
you get along with our producer very well.
So here's the concept. When we think of personal or professional development, we often think that from at least the personal development side, it's all about us. We have to fix us. We have to do things with us. Get Off My Bus is really about understanding that we are only half of the equation. The other half of the equation is other people.
Yes.
Because we are surrounded constantly by them.
Yes.
They're everywhere.
Yes.
And we're often focusing on how they're getting in our way and they're making decisions or policies or things that are, if I could only move these people to the side, I would be able to do X. So the concept of Get Off My Bus is very simple. I believe that when we're born, we're all bus drivers. Mm-hmm. And each of us is driving our bus through our lives. Mm-hmm. And as we drive through our lives, people are constantly either coming onto our buses or getting off of our buses.
Mm-hmm. Ah, interesting. That is so true.
And, some people...
That is really... I never thought of it that way, but that's true.
And some people come on for a lifetime. Some people come on for long periods of time. Others come onto your bus for moments sometimes. Okay. But everyone gets to points in their lives where they should stop and ask 5 questions about their bus. And the 5 questions are simply these. 1, who's driving your bus? Okay. In other words, are you still in the driver's seat, or have you gotten up and has somebody else taken control of your bus?
I would say that I know we want to go for another 4 too, but I know the answer to that. I think most of us are not driving our own bus.
No, or we may be driving our bus, but somebody's hand is sitting there on the wheel with us going, no, come here, come here, come here, come here.
Yep.
And we get caught up in that. You got it.
Yes.
You got it. The second question is, if you look at any city bus, what's emblazoned across the top? The destination. Where are you going?
Sure.
So the question number 2 is, what are you trying to do? If you don't know where you're going, which many people don't simply because they've never stopped to go, what am I trying to accomplish?
Sure.
You're wandering aimlessly, and we see that all the time. I mean, that's very common. We're just driving streets.
Robin, I understand that fully, but if you have a small business and you're driving or somebody's driving the bus, usually your customers are driving the bus or maybe somebody within your company's really driving it and pulling you along, you can't make good decisions because of the fog of the business, the constant bricks that fall on top of your head during the course of the day. So this is really very important.
And that being said, that's going to kind of segue us into question number 3.
Oh, good.
Oh,
good.
You're good.
And
you
you didn't even coach me on that.
The third question is, once you've got a little more clarity on those first 2 questions, because that's about you, the third question has you turning around looking at your passengers and saying to yourself, who needs to get off my bus? Now, it goes hand in hand with question number 4, which is who needs to get on my bus, which we'll talk about, because, of course, as an entrepreneur, we know how important that is.
I'm writing this down because I'm going to write a blog on this one because this is really,
I thought you were
really
going
important.
I'm writing it because I'm writing a book on it.
No, we're not writing. No, you already did that.
And the 5th question, which these last 3 go hand in hand, which is a lot of what we'll probably be talking about, is the 5th question is, whose bus do you need to get off of? And by that I mean, the simple way to put it is we say yes to things constantly. Oh, yes, we'll do that, we'll do that, we'll do that. In our heads we go, I don't have the time, don't have the energy, don't have the money, don't have the desire, I don't care. And we open our mouths and yes comes out.
That is so true. Guilty.
As am I. I think we all are.
Yeah.
It's something we just do. It's an autopilot almost in our society. And no judgment. It's not right or wrong.
Yes.
But once you become aware that that's something you may very well be doing, and you understand it's okay to say, no, that doesn't fit right now, and retain that energy or that money or that spirit or that whatever it is that you keep giving away, talk about energy.
Oh boy, that's an
huge.
energy sapper.
Absolutely,
An energy sapper. We're interviewing Robin Sachs from the 1 Minute Mindset. She's a speaker. She's a coach. She's a mentor. She is a great teacher to people who want to learn how to speak and make speeches and so on. And let's get back to number 5 then. I really want to talk about that because it's so important. How do you get people off your bus? I mean, do you just learn, like the Nancy Reagan said, just say no? I can't do that? Is it that simple? And don't feel guilty about it?
It's interesting because while we often find it hard to say no, because when someone is asking something of us, typically what's going on is in our heads, because everything that we're stressing about lives right there between our ears. Mm-hmm. It is. Mm-hmm. When someone asks us to do something, we immediately go into our heads. We have that, I don't want to do this. I don't have the time. We have this entire little monologue with ourselves. And it's often, it's very similar every time. And then, like I mentioned, we open our mouths and say, sure. we say something like, I'll try.
Yes.
If you hear try come out of your mouth, sometimes it's because we want to say no, but we're uncomfortable saying no. So we kind of give ourselves an out. I'll try. I've just given an escape hatch to myself.
Yeah, Robin, but anybody who says that to me, I know is not going to do it.
And that's the key. And so to go back to really, how do you say no and not feel guilty, not have all of these stress and emotional things going on in your head? Very simply, it's not that someone's reaching out and they're needing or wanting you. Mm-hmm. Somebody needs something to be done. And if I mean no, but I say yes, I've just done a tremendous disservice. I can say yes and follow through.
Yes.
If I know, like you just mentioned, that's not what we're going for. I can say, I am so thrilled you reached out to me. Thank you so much. I am flattered. I couldn't do that project justice right now, so I'm not going to do that to you. Maybe I can help you find someone who can.
I like that. So you really are finding a delicate way to tell them to get off my bus.
And, a lot of times when we're talking about the get off my bus, and every time I say this, somebody pops to everyone's mind who hears this. Instantly, we know who these people are. Who is someone in your life who is the person that you pick up your phone when it rings, you see their name on caller ID, and immediately you go, oh, I don't have the energy for this right now.
I agree.
Let it go to voicemail. Yeah. We know who the people are.
But you got to call them back.
Well, here's the thing. We know who the people who sap our energy.
Yes.
We know the people who are the negative Nellies, who everything is, that'll never work.
Yes.
We know who these people are. Yeah, we know who they are. They don't always have to be thrown off your bus, because those people can be a wonderful perspective tool. I mean, they're very helpful. They can also bring things up that you may not have thought of. It's not that that's a complete negative. The beauty of that is a bus is a very long vehicle. They don't have to be sitting behind you or have their hand on your wheel. They can move back a few seats. And the way that it is that you do that, it's not them. Often, those are people we are focusing on, and the fact that we are focusing our attention on it is exactly why they're sitting next to us in the driver's seat. When you refocus, guess what? They bump back a few seats.
But they should be off the bus. Shouldn't they really be off the bus?
You know how you do that? When I do get off my bus workshops, one of the things I do with a longer workshop is I'll have people, I give them a picture of a bus, and I ask them to start listing people who are in your front seats, who are in your back seats. List people off the bus who are off or need to be off. I've had people get really cathartic with that exercise. They'll draw someone under the bus with X's on their eyes. I'm like, oh, my goodness. But, the reality is it's not all about calling someone and saying, oh, by the way, I'm throwing you off my bus. Goodbye.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's not good. That's burning a bridge.
Well, for some people, you might talk about cathartic. But
Robin,
go for it.
I got to take a break. And we're going to talk about getting people on and off your bus right after the break. This is Kip Marlowe, Entrepreneurs Club Radio on the Talk of the Town, AM 1330. We'll be right back. Listening to Kip Marlowe at Entrepreneurs Club Radio, and we're sitting here with Robin Sachs, who is the 1 Minute Mindset. And we're talking about getting the right people on your bus and the wrong people off your bus, or at least back in the back of the bus. And it's something that Jim Collins in his great book, Good to Great, talked about in a couple of chapters. It's just how do you, he talked about it just from a standpoint of hiring the right people. Robin's talking about it well beyond that, not only hiring the right people, but being around the right people. So, Robin, let's keep going on this. Where do we leave off?
Well, I think the key is when we're talking about people in our lives, because entrepreneurs, boy, there's that professional and personal lives mesh.
They do.
They just do. It's oftentimes, not always, people become entrepreneurs because there's a passion. There's something they see in themselves and they become aware that I have this thing that I have to go out and share. I have to create something differently. If I keep doing what everyone else is doing, I keep looking like everyone else. And that's not a place that's comfortable for an entrepreneur. And so we were talking about, when you're talking about getting people onto your bus and getting people off of your bus, that doesn't necessarily mean a physical thing. I have to kick somebody off or I need to drag somebody on.
Well, I thought of both.
It can be. It can be very therapeutic.
Yes.
But, the other piece of that is oftentimes that analogy is simply speaking to where are you putting your focus? We tend to focus on negativity a lot more than positivity. And what you find
Wait a minute. What do you mean by that?
Ooh.
We really do that?
I don't know what you're talking about. Let's talk about control for a moment, if we can, because
then you'll get into the negativity, positivity.
Absolutely, because here's an interesting thing. Oftentimes, when we are focusing way too much on the negativity, in other words, when you find yourself, you have a day and 10 things went right and 1 thing went wrong, and you get home and somebody says, "How was your day?" What do we typically say? Oh, well.
Geez, you don't believe what happened to me today.
It's amazing. We don't see positive and continue to bring it up. The
Why
moment
not?
something...
Not?
Because we're nuts. No, I'm kidding.
Is that a psychological term?
Well, it is.
It is.
It is. The key is It all comes back to control. We, and this is a societal thing, in our culture, our default, our autopilot is almost, we gravitate towards the things we feel out of control with. But then we have out of control lives. We think, we get between our ears, we create stress, we do all these things, and it's a snowball. It's, if you think about it, I think it's like water going down a drain. It starts very slowly, and then it goes faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And when it comes to that, do you feel in control or out of control? Because that has to do with, are you okay making decisions or just trying? Here's the key. There's two things that we have to know about control. Just two. There are things in our lives over which we have zero control.
Yes.
And there are things in our lives over which we have virtually total control.
Yes.
When you stop to step back and observe, you kind of become the observer of your life. Where do we gravitate more towards? We oftentimes are looking at all the negative stuff instead of the positive. Here's the key. What do we focus on? The weather, the traffic, the stock market, other people, all of the things over which we have no control.
Okay.
What do we have control over? It's a short list. Us. Guess what? I can control how I'm responding to all of those things. And guess what? That's probably the only thing I have true control over. But we have to learn, or relearn, I should say, or even unlearn how to do that because we get so far away from that.
But Robin, don't we have, put yourself in the mind of a business owner or a manager of a business or an entrepreneur who's starting a business. There are so many things that happen to them during the day that it's very difficult for some types of personalities like mine to be able to handle it. I remember one day I was running the business and I was really going strong and everything was going well. And then the state of California came in the door and said I owed them $80,000 in back sales taxes.
I hate when that happens.
I just, I'm going, pardon me? I don't think so. Stuff like that. And whether you're guilty or you're not guilty, that's something that happens. That's the brick that falls on your head during a day. Everything else was beautiful. But how do you deal with that brick?
Two things let's talk about.
Okay.
Because we just, we mentioned a couple of times stress.
Yes.
Two things. Did you notice you did something when you were telling me that story? Now that story's a little bit in the past.
Yes. Like
you
20
chuckled.
years.
You
but
smiled.
I still remember it.
You chuckled. You laughed.
Yeah, I did.
I'm a big Mel Brooks fan, and Mel Brooks was being
I love Mel Brooks.
he was being interviewed one time, and the interviewer mentioned, a lot of the stuff you make fun of and deal with is stuff that wasn't funny, but you somehow make it humorous. How do you do that? And they said, what is comedy to you? Can you describe? And he said, you know what? I've learned over the years, comedy is simply tragedy plus time. Because the way you often get back at things is you look at the things that were stressful and you find a way to look at them differently, and that's perspective. And so if you think about it, the stuff that in the moment is very stressful, when we're telling the story 6 months later or 20 years later, we kind of chuckle and go, oh my goodness, you remember the time when this, oh my God.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And when you think about it, in those terms, oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes, more often than not, stress and humor have a lot more in common. They're often the same things. And we know this because when I'm in the middle of something, it's stressful. When you're in the middle of the same thing, it's kind of funny. You're running around looking for your keys all over the place. And I'm going, just relax. We even say to people, relax. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah,
oh, my.
That's right.
When it's happening to me, though, don't.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
It's perspective.
I'm going to be late.
It's perspective. That's right. And that's exactly why we can look at everyone else and fix their problems instantly.
Yes.
Why is he doing that? Why did she say that? What are they thinking? But when we look in the mirror, we're often at a loss.
Do you remember Sam Malone in Cheers?
Of course.
One of his philosophies, obviously this was a comedy, and obviously it was, it was certainly nonfiction, and or fiction, excuse me. And he said, when they said to him, you got a problem here. What are you going to do about it? He says, I'm going to forget about it for a while, and it'll go away.
Thank you, Sam. The philosophy of Sam.
That's Sam's philosophy. Mayday Malone's. That was his philosophy.
Now, and that's absolutely one way. Guess what? It's probably not as big a thing as we're making it out to be. And here's an interesting thing. When it is a big deal,
yes.
My goodness, you owe me $80,000. Our initial response is,
oh, shoot.
I have $80,000. Oh, my goodness, wait, it's a tax thing. Oh, my goodness, am I in trouble? What's going to happen? Am I going to jail? The reality is, okay, now I'm aware. Tell me how I can send you a little bit at a time. Here's what I can do. Yeah. Great.
It's funny that you say that because they came in, and it was, to make a long story short, I didn't owe them $80,000, but they got me on a technicality. And the technicality was I didn't put the nonprofit hospital sheet in my files when I shipped it. If I had them in my files when I shipped it, I wouldn't have to pay. But because I didn't have it in my files, they caught me on a technicality that would just really made me even madder.
I can imagine.
Because nonprofit hospitals don't pay taxes, no sales taxes. But I still had to pay the state of California. I ended up having to pay them money. I did, but it wasn't $80,000. It's considerably less, and I did pay them over a period of time. And when I did that, I went home and I had a glass of Chardonnay, and I said, phew, well, that's over.
Good man.
Yes.
You bring something else up, Kip, because two things. One, there's almost always a solution.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of focusing on, okay, stop. We have a problem. Throw all the minutia off the table. Yeah. What do we need to do? Here's what we need to do. Okay, let's find out how to make that happen.
There you go. There you go. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk to Sean Neese right after the break. Sean's going to call in from Neese, Malik, and Seifert, and we're going to talk about keeping track of your revenues so you don't have the stress. This is Kip Marlowe with Robin Sachs on Entrepreneurs Club Radio on the Talk of the Town AM 1330 and WELW.com. This is just a really fascinating guy, and he's what do they say? He's most CPAs don't have a personality, so Sean does. He's great. So we're going to go back to Robin Sachs from the 1 Minute Mindset. We're going to go back to stress. You talk about a good CPA will take some stress off you, by the way, and Sean is a good one as well as George Malik and Mr. Seifert, Brian Seifert from NMS. So they'll take some stress off you. But, got to talk to you. But, it's still out there. And how do you get rid of it?
Yeah, well, you know what? Here's the thing, Kip. We call it stress management for a reason. Mm-hmm. You'll notice nobody calls it stress elimination. It's called
really?
Amazing.
I've never heard those two words together.
Epiphany. So, because it's not going away. Yeah. But, one of the keys that we really need to touch on is we always think of stress as bad. Ironically, stress is a phenomenal thing. When you start to learn to make friends with your stress.
Make friends with your stress. Is that a feminine term? Guys, I'm sorry. Guys can't figure that one out.
Buddy, you got to have a beer with your stress, Kip. Just sometimes. You got to sit back and have a beer with your friend, with your stress.
I agree.
But it's true. It's stress management.
By the way, our producer agrees, too. He was laughing back there.
And talking about Sam Malone. Get up to the bar sometimes and go, listen, stress. Yeah. Without you, nothing would get accomplished. If I didn't have deadlines, if I didn't have to go, I got to take care of this by Thursday, or something is going to be not the way I want it to be. That's the key, is stress is not always a bad thing. Stress can be a very positive thing. There's actually an entire wing of psychology that's called eustress, EU stress, that is positive stress.
Wow.
It's how
I talk about two words that shouldn't be together.
You know what?
Positive stress.
And here's this is the core of all of it. Life's not about what's happening to us, because we don't have a lot of control over that.
Yes.
Life's all about how we're choosing to respond to what's happening to us.
Point.
Why?
Robin, that's a great point.
That, again, is what we've got a lot more control over.
Gotcha.
And so I think we need to go into another break here.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Well, when we come back, I have a great analogy.
We're going to come back for an analogy?
I'm going back to my media days. This is great.
Do we have a few seconds left, Alan, do you think? We're done. Okay, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break. This is Kip Marlowe. You're listening to Robin Sachs on handling your stress on the Talk of the Town, AM 1330, WELW, and WELW.com.
Well, you gonna miss me. early in the morning. One of these days. Oh, yeah. Well, you're gonna...
Thank you, Ellen. Great song. You're listening to Kip Marlowe on Entrepreneurs Club Radio on the Talk of the Town AM 1330. We're talking to Robin Sachs from the 1 Minute Mindset. And by the way, you can go to her website, 1 Minute Mindset. 1 is the number, minutemindset.com, right? .com. Is that
It
right?
is. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's 1, the number, minutemindset.com. A lot of good stuff on there. So I've been to it on several occasions. So it's really good. Robin, what's the difference between stress and pressure?
All right. Let's talk about stress first.
Okay.
Okay. Let me give you an analogy.
Okay.
Because everyone either does this or you know someone who does this. You're driving down the highway.
Yes.
And somebody cuts you off and you have to slam on your brakes.
Yes.
At that moment in time, and we have dozens of these moments every day.
Yes.
At that moment in time, there are only 2 ways in which you can respond, and you have to choose one of them. Now, we unconsciously often choose one of them, but think about this. Option number 1, slam on the brakes,
Yep.
immediately start screaming and cursing and yelling and, you, and the person is oblivious because it wasn't this malicious attack.
Sure.
It truly was, you were in my blind spot. And sometimes we get so worked up within a matter of moments. Sometimes we even have to pull up next to them so we can look at them. Yeah, and we stare them down. Then we get mad because they're not looking at us.
Yes,
and
people have looked at me a lot over that.
and literally within a few seconds, we have just created so much stress. And what's going on physiologically? Our bodies are machines. They simply work with what they've got. So here's what happens. I immediately respond in a stressful way to something. Mm-hmm. My brain goes, release all those stress chemicals. We're going into survival mode. It could be the adrenaline, the cortisol, all of the stress type chemicals and hormones. And it goes back to caveman days. I mean, literally, it's fight or flight mode. We just created survival mode for ourselves, and our brain's going, hey, we need to respond. We're going to either need to flight or we're going to need to fight. So get all those stress chemicals, that adrenaline, the cortisol, get all that into our system, and it starts coursing through, which is why when we choose to respond in those ways, if that's 8 o'clock in the morning, at 3 o'clock, we're still having this day.
Yes,
right?
we are. Yes,
it's downhill.
Yes.
We just created that. Mm-hmm. Now, the second option is you slam on your brakes and you say, glad I was paying attention.
Yes.
And you move on with your day.
And you're not upset with the person that,
And the reality is, right. And even if you take that other person, other people, there they are again. When you take that out of the picture, you either created your stress. They didn't. Ironically enough, what's happening to you isn't something you can often control. How you're choosing to respond does. Why do we care? One, it's one of the few things we have control over. Talk about being back in control or feeling out of control or victimized, or, you can throw a lot of words in there. Or 2, it's not a big deal. Let me get back to focusing on the things that are going to help me and move me along.
Okay.
And so it's ironic that I would never say we create all of our own stress, because that's asinine. We don't.
Okay.
We live in a stressful world with stressful times. We have stressful lives. However, probably the vast majority of our stress is self-created. And when you start to become aware of how I'm responding to things, and talk about if 10 things happen today, and every client I have calls, and every phone is ringing, and I can't sit down and send this email that I had to get out 2 hours ago, what do we start doing? Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And we're running around like the proverbial chicken with its head cut off, and we get nothing done. Instead of saying, stop, focus, what's one thing? Do the email, stop.
What's important?
Done.
Yes.
Okay, what's the next thing? Make this phone call. Hello, hi. Yeah, what do we need to do? Great, I'll take care of it.
Done.
It's done. And you just start checking off the list. And before you know it, 3 hours later, it's all done, as opposed to 3 days later when you're still going and not accomplishing.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the $64,000 question, unless you just pointed to me. So you have more you want to talk more about this particular
Well, you asked, so there's stress. You asked, what's the difference between stress and pressure?
Yes.
I think
semantics. Okay.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, cool.
I think it's different for different people, because I think for some people, it's semantics. I think they're used interchangeably. For some people, pressure can sometimes be seen as a positive thing. It's a goal. If you can interchange the word goal with pressure, I want to accomplish this many calls. I want to accomplish this many sales. I want to accomplish this many dollars. I want to get this many points in my rec softball league tonight. I want to get on base this percentage of time. We can look at it in that way and say, hey, can you interchange goal with pressure? Then it's a positive stress. It's a positive.
Wow. Now that's interesting. If you can interchange goal with pressure, it's a positive stress, did you say? It's a positive change?
Think about this. How many entrepreneurs spend a lifetime, it seems, or a part of a lifetime, trying to fit in and going, I'm going to school, let me get my degree so I can come out and work in a job. And you go from job to job thinking nothing is a fit. And for a long time, we struggle, and we're trying to find where we fit in.
Yes.
And that's very stressful.
Yes.
And it can be often very damaging to the psyche, because why don't I fit in? There's a whole, so much that starts going on. Yes. And you talk about self-determination and self-esteem and self-worth. And there's a lot of stuff that starts to happen. It's when the entrepreneur begins to say, maybe I'm not going to fit in, and that's okay. What is it that I need to go out and do? And when you start looking at that, isn't it amazing when someone else is asking you to do it, we're not terribly motivated. Someone has to try and motivate us, and eventually we go, I'm done. When we're self-motivated, nobody has to tell us to do anything. Why? Because it's what we want to do.
So the 1-minute mindset is exactly that. When you have an issue that you're facing that is stressful or is driving you nuts, you got to take a deep breath. And you've got to understand that this isn't the end of the world. It's hard for a lot of people to understand that. But you got to take that deep breath. Am I right?
I would sum it all up by saying, here's what you need to know. You're overthinking everything. We all are. When you stop for 5 seconds and you get clarity, what do I need to do? What am I trying to do? Get clarity. When you have that clarity, and it takes moments sometimes, take action. Get moving. What is something I can do right now to move that forward? And you get a result every time. It's an acronym I call CAR, Clarity, Action, Result. And if you run CAR over and over and over, clarity, what are you trying to do? Action, do it. Do something. You get a result. Analyze your result. Go back. What's the clarity on my result? Good. Take the next action. Did it work? Great. Do it again. If it didn't work, what do you need to do differently? Throw the minutia off the table. Get clarity. What is it that we need to do?
Right
and
now.
Go do it.
Right
and
now.
Go do it.
Okay. We don't have much time left, but I really thank you so much, Robin, for your advice and your wisdom on this. Stress is a huge issue in business. Folks, next week, we've got a couple of things. We got a couple of new guests. We've got, actually, Michael Houlihan and Bonnie Harvey, the founders of Barefoot Wines, which I love. And they're authors of the book, The Barefoot Spirit, How Hardship, Hustle, and Heart Built America's #1 wine brand. Going to be a heck of a don't miss this show.